are in the best season. Spooky, spooky season. Spooky, spooky season. Spooky, spooky season. And I'm back with another Monster of the Week spooky season edition. Well, it's not too spooky. I'll explain. I'll get into it. First, I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate. So let's get into it.
Now time for some interactive fun.
Yeah, so we're into it. Well, first this episode, because I promise we'll get into it. We're in it. And also spooky season. It's October. It's officially October. It's officially fall. I'm not going to say what year this is because time doesn't matter anymore. We're all in the dark times. But yeah, this is Dumb Test Slate. I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate. And this is an episode from the Monster of the Week series that I revived from an older story series that I did called Insecta. That was based around the Mothman, in which jumped to a hero series where I created the character Cole, who is our main superhero, protector, world saver, dimension jumper, time jumper, that saves us all. They are our hero. Listen to past episodes. I'm sorry. I'm so bad at keeping up with stuff. But yeah, Cole is our protector. Cole basically was taught by the Mothman. The Mothman was made up of multiple entities. This is his whole backstory. The Mothman is a known cryptid, but I created my own version of him where he's made up of multiple entities that look like insects, but they're actually from the spirit world. They came together to form like what you see as the Mothman, and they taught Cole how to be a shaman, a protector. They were a reluctant hero, but the Mothman, but that's their backstory, and we're caught up now because every week or honestly at this point in the month, I create new monsters. Sometimes they're new cryptids. Sometimes they're older stories. I try to create things that were in the old gods and monster stories from Mesopotamia, mythology, and all that stuff. I've created new monsters of the week from that. But Cole is our stationary hero that saves us all. And in past episodes, they've fought cryptids, like I said, from that. Older gods that came back from Mesopotamia, mythology and folklore. They fought cryptids with like a two-headed one called Domo Como, I think it was called. Go back and listen to that. The most previous episode is when I said Cole needs sidekicks. So Cole got their sidekicks in the past episode. So here they are now in real time or present time. Not really present time because time is a whole weird thing with these stories. Listen to past episodes. Past, present, and future are happening at the same time. They're actually multiple dimensions. Okay, that's all I'll say about it. Cole could jump through all those. That's the last thing I'll say about it. So, Cole with their sidekicks. One is Ingrid Cold. I'm sorry, I know it's a bit confusing, but that was their actual name. They're a kind of cryptid, but they're kind of mysterious figure that's intertwined with the original Mothman sightings. Cole brought them back and made them a human in this dimension, which Cole usually exists in mostly. And also Cole has Issa. Issa is looks like an owl to everyone else, but Issa, Cole brought her back from the underworld. Issa's was Mary Hire, which goes back to actual Mothman folklore and the Mothman Chronicles, whatever that book was. She was actually a reporter in West Virginia around the time of the Mothman sightings. But in my story, Cole brought her back from the underworld. That's why she's this owl character, but it also kind of has multiple eyes, like I forgot what it's called, the cherub angel from like the Bible, how that looks, multiple eyes and a bunch of wings. Yeah, so those are Cole's sidekicks, and this is like, so I'm setting up the world, if you can't figure that out already, for this story, for all these stories. So I set up Cole is the hero and all that stuff. I set up Cole's sidekicks and kind of more of the world building. Now, like, I envision it as a sitcom where you have one main stage, like the house that the family lives in or the shop they all work in. This is how it's going to be for this story. It's going to be a record store. Cole runs a record store with Ingrid, Cole, and Issa. Cole's sidekicks. Remember, they're Al, and Ingrid Cole's an actual person. Cole, the hero, saved them and brought them back to this realm to live out one last human life. But they all run this vintage record shop together in this small town. I don't know if I'm going to set it in West Virginia. It's going to be like small town USA, like very accepting small town where there's weird characters, but it's also small town. So it's a place that's like Portland. It's like weird towns in Maine. It's all like those little towns where a record shop can really do good. But the reason I do that because Cole, Cole, Issa, and Ingrid, all from these different worlds. Cole is from all different dimensions. Issa was from the past, but went into the underworld, so they have all this knowledge from that. And Ingrid is just from the past. He's from the 70s. So he's being caught up in all that stuff. And they basically work in this huge record shop and argue about music all day because Cole can jump through time and dimensions. Cole stocks the shelves with all these rare albums and vintage band memorabilia and CDs and all this vintage music. Cole can just jump through time and dimensions and get that. And anytime they're in an argument with their sidekicks, Issa and Ingrid, they could just jump through in the dimension, pull like some memorabilia, pull proof, and show them that they were right. So that's what their day-to-day life is. Money really doesn't matter to them. They can travel through dimensions. Well, Cole and Issa can, and Issa's all seeing is kind of the not leader. Cole is obviously the shaman and the protector and all this stuff, but Cole is still young and learning since they learned everything from the Mothman, but the Mothman is gone. Cole was able to go back to the underworld with advice from the Mothman before they left to go find Issa, bring them back to the underworld to basically help Cole in all these Monster of the Week adventures. So that's where we are present day. Like I said, it's spooky season. So this new Monster of the Week episode is going to be a Halloween themed one. I've been trying to rack my brain, come up with spooky ideas because previous years, did this for 2 years, every spooky season I would come up with new, different. The ultimate goal was to do four spooky episodes per week for the whole month of October, and I would do a different story for each one. I think previously I did 4, and maybe the next year I did 2 or 3. This year I said I wanted to do it again, but I've been struggling and tried to come up with like 4 unique ideas. Everything was something that's already been done. And in the real world, stuff is terrifying and spooky enough that there's enough doom scrolling. So I was like, I wanted to do something more spoofy. Like on, I'm an 80s, 90s kid. So back in the TGIF days where regular sitcoms would do these weird and trippy and often kind of creepy and spooky Halloween episodes. Like I remember Family Matters, there was an evil Steve Urkel doll that was like haunting and killing the family, but it was like all a dream. Same thing with Boy Meets World. They had like a Scream spoof, but I think it was all a dream too. So I wanted to kind of do that to be something spooky, but also lighthearted. We need a more lighthearted in this world. But yeah, I wasn't really into. I'm trying to get into the spooky season. But I'm not full on like horror movie, jump scare, all that stuff yet. It's too much of that in real life. Okay, back to this story. So in this setting, we have Cole, Ingrid, and Issa. Cole doesn't really know what Halloween is. This is going to be the premise for this episode. Let's just say that this Monster of the Week episode in the theme of a 90s TGIF show, a sitcom. Cole really doesn't know what Halloween is or how to do Halloween correct. I should say that. Cole is a shaman. Cole is made up of all these different dimensions and worlds, and you never know how different they're going to be. There could be a minute difference. There could be a huge difference. And Ingrid knows what it is. Ingrid's from the 70s, and Issa's from the 70s too. They say it was like, yeah, there's like kids get candy. They wear costumes and all this stuff. And there's this. It was from this pagan traditions and all this stuff. Cole still doesn't really get it. So when Halloween comes, the whole town goes crazy and they have the whole Halloween parade and all this stuff. So Uh, Issa kind of changes the way they look, so they make themselves more humanoid, so they can kind of just walk around and like a little kid that's in an owl costume, so it could be more normal. And Ingrid's just walking around as themselves, and Issa's just trying to Issa. Oh, I mean, not I should say no. Issa's the owl. Cole is kind of always dressed bohemian or quirky, so they just always look kind of off to the townsfolk. They can always change their appearance. Cole has all these shaman powers, so they're kind of walking around town and um, not like Scooby Doo, but they do have a vintage van, like a VW camper van. Okay, they do. It's almost like Ingrid in the past and all that stuff. Whatever, but they're not like Scooby Doo. They don't have the mystery van. They do have a vintage car they could drive around in. I'll come back later. So they're like around town, and all these crazy costumes, and Issa and Ingrid are explaining it to Cole. Cole's getting it. And Cole's you see Cole kind of loosening up and just seeing that all these monsters and all this stuff around. Because hopefully you remember, if I remember, one of Cole's powers, if they have the power of sight and vision, they have a third eye. And they can see things that, when things are in different realms and all this stuff in different dimensions, things are actually evil. Cole can see all these things that people really can't. Issa can see a lot too, because Issa has all these multiple eyes. And they're going out of town, and they come up to a bridge, and people are kind of excited and laughing and all this stuff, and kind of running towards the bridge because there's kind of this Halloween parade going on. It goes over the bridge. And things seem fun and normal, but there's kind of excitement going around. There's like a kind of these bunch of monsters, these people dressed up as these huge monsters, this huge pantomime and all this stuff, people on stilts. And people are going crazy and snapping pictures of this one thing. And Issa and Ingrid are like showing Cole that this is normal, and this is how things, they kind of brought it back. They did this in the past with the Halloween parade across the bridge and all this stuff. And people are snapping pictures of this big kind of monster around all these people in costumes. And then Issa and Cole are like walking to Issa and Ingrid are walking towards it, and Cole is just frozen in their tracks. And they're like, I was like, we told you these are just people dressed up. Like, and then Cole makes a motion to point to their forehead. That's where their third eye is. When things happen, their third eye it's usually like how, normal people will look, but their third eye can appear when things happen, and it looks like a moth to other people, but it's actually a third eye. That goes back to like the insects being from the spiritual world and all this stuff. That's like Cole's origin story. And they're like, and they look at what Cole is looking at, and it looks like a Mothman, like a giant hairy, dark creature with huge wings and glowing red eyes. And they were like, oh, wow, that's a really good costume. And it's funny because they're all connected through the Mothman, but Cole is just staring dead on. Cole is just frozen. And they're like, it's just a costume. Somebody's in a really good costume. They have like good electronics and all that stuff. But then Cole takes out like a scrap of paper, and they hand it to Ingrid and Issa. And of course, if this is like a TV show, you hear a voiceover of Cole reading this note. In Cole's origin story, it's called Insecta. That's when the Mothman basically found them out, and you go through the whole backstory. When the Mothman turns Cole into a full shaman with all these powers, it's kind of the same way that caterpillars go to being butterflies and moths. They go into like the chrysalis and all that stuff. They basically liquefy, they destroy their old selves, and they come out new as something beautiful as a moth or a butterfly. That was the symbolism. That's what happened to Cole in their origin story. But doing this gave Cole the power to be the shaman, the protector. The Mothman wasn't needed anymore. So the Mothman basically at that point dissolved after teaching Cole what they needed to do and all this stuff, being their mentor. But then Cole is telling Issa and Ingrid what's on this note was written by the Mothman when they were leaving, and it was the last lesson given to Cole. And it said, the Mothman said to Cole, I'm giving you all these powers. You accept the responsibility of being a shaman. You're all knowing and all powerful and all these things. You're the protector now because you kind of opened up the world to all these, attacks now from demons, from the older gods, from distant, all this stuff. But the last thing Mothman leaves with Cole is that this is my, purpose. You're the protector now. I will never return. This is the end for me. This was my purpose and all this stuff. And now that you're ready, I'm not needed. Me as an entity is not needed. But then he leaves with this last warning. If you ever see a version of me again, or something that's an actual Mothman, be very afraid, because that's not me, and I'll never return. And then that was it. And then they both, Ingrid and Issa, realize that what they're looking at is an actual Mothman, like an actual monster Mothman that just kind of was freed in this world on Halloween night. And as they realize what's going on, they realize that Mothman, that is an actual Mothman monster, is now like on the top of the bridge, and it flew up to the top of the bridge and is flying at them. And people on the ground during this like Halloween parade think it was like, a drone, and somebody's doing like special effects for the Halloween night party and all that stuff. They think somebody just attached something to a drone and it's flying. But Cole, with their third eye, can see that that's an actual monster. All right, we're back from the commercial break. And by commercial break, I mean I needed some Pepsi Max because I'm talking too much. Okay, so where we found our heroes, Cole, Issa, and Ingrid realize that that's an actual monster, Mothman, and it's chasing them. So they get back to their vintage, not mystery van, not Scooby-Doo mystery van, but like their vintage van. They're all hopping in. Ingrid's driving. Cole is hopping in the passenger side, and Issa's trying to hop in the side. Cole grabs her and says, "Oh no, back up." They're all doing that. They're running. They're screaming. They're all doing all this stuff. Issa says to Cole, or yells at Cole, the Mothman monster man is back. He's chasing you and he's going to kill us. And then Cole turns to Issa and says, he's actually chasing after you and you need to be bait. So cut to them in their vintage van, not mystery Scooby-Doo van, but their van. They're speeding down as Ingrid and Cole are in the van, but Issa, as a terrified owl, is flying and screeching as the monster Mothman is chasing after her. And Cole yells up to Issa, "You know where to take him." So Issa flies. Okay, this is in West Virginia because I have to make this point that they fly back to the original World War II munitions factory, where I think was the first one in West Virginia in the 60s or 70s. The first sighting, that couple, they were parked there and something jumped on top of their car, and that was the first Mothman sighting. So Issa flies and Ingrid driving take them back there to basically trap this monster Mothman. And it's a callback to the original Mothman sighting for this Halloween sitcom episode, Monster of the Week. So basically a standoff happens there where the Mothman monster dives in to tackle Issa. Cole does magic and basically moves them out the way, and a whole big crash at the factory with this monster Mothman. So in my cryptid version of the Mothman, like I said earlier and in previous episodes, the actual Mothman from Cole's origin story was that they were made up of multiple entities. They just came together to look like this Mothman. This Mothman monster is the reverse of that, where they have the power to basically split into multiple entities or creatures. as Cole is having this battle with them, it turns into an action movie. That's the crazy twist in this Halloween sitcom episode. And Cole is kind of using their powers and this, their magic and all this stuff to basically, create fireballs and all this stuff. In previous episodes, I talk about ball lightning and all that. Cole is kind of having this showdown with the Mothman, and Cole is struggling because this monster Mothman keeps splitting into multiple creatures and all this stuff to make it more exciting. And then because Cole, like I said, Cole has these powers as a shaman, but they're young and they're still learning. You hear Issa, who finally gathers herself, and she yells down to Cole, why are you taking so long? And then Cole yells back, don't you see the monster keeps splitting? I'm trying to do everything I can. And then Issa just calmly yells at Cole, aren't you made up of infinite versions of yourself? And Cole replies as they're fighting this monster Mothman, yeah, so. And then to do the sitcom trope and break the fourth wall, Issa, the multi-eyed owl, cryptid creature that's Cole's sidekick, just looks at the camera slowly with all their eyes, and then like motions that that sarcastic kind of presenting motion with their arm that everyone does in sitcoms. Issa does that as they look into the camera, and then you hear Cole in the background go, oh yeah, and then Cole splits off into all these multiple versions of themselves and casts the same spell on the Mothman that Cole has been having trouble with because it keeps splitting into these multiple entities. And that's the end of the fight sequence. So we're back and everything is calmed down, and Cole, Issa, and Ingrid are all back at their not mystery van by this old World War II munitions factory after this monster Mothman has been defeated, and basically, let's say a fireball spell that Cole did as multiple versions of themselves that basically inflamed the monster Mothman and destroyed them. You see Issa make a smart comment to Cole, like, sometimes you got to set stuff on fire to win. That's kind of a throwback to Cole. Like all the previous episodes I've done with the Monsters of the Week, Cole has kind of used these logic and see their side to convince people that they were being lied to, and they were being misled by what they thought were good things, but they were evil entities and all that stuff. So Issa says sometimes you have to set stuff on fire. They're kind of gathering up by their vintage van to drive off, and you see that thing, the trope of the thing that was just defeated. You see like a spark of something that, it wasn't actually defeated. There was like, it was reborn, or there was one part of it that wasn't. You see that kind of happening on the ground, and then a tiny version of Cole comes running in with a tiny fireball or a tiny match or something and destroys it. It says the end. That's the end. So there's no like, is there, this monster is not actually, no. That's the funny end to my Halloween spooky story. I hope you liked it. This is the Monster of the Week Insecta Cole series that I've been doing. Spooky season has sucked already, but I'm going to try to do another episode. It's kind of going to be a spoof episode. And it's funny because I was randomly looking at Instagram before recording this, and I saw a meme that was kind of making fun of an idea I had for the spooky season next spoof story or episode I want to do with this podcast. I was like, I have to think of another one, but hopefully I'll do that one. It takes a lot of actual audio editing from me and work, which means it might take a while, but I will have it out this spooky season in October. But yeah, that means I'm rambling. That means I'm still Kirk. This is still Dumb Test Slate, where the podcast where I try to come up with story ideas. Thanks for listening. Thanks for making it all this far. Love yourself. Love one another. Love thy neighbor. We're all the same people stuck on this big ball of crap. Thanks for listening. Hopefully you catch me soon and enjoy spooky season. Before the world ends. Bye.